Hey, welcome back to the channel. Going to give you a bit of an update on the 67 Camaro build. Haven't posted in a while. Happy to say the rocker panels are in, both passenger and driver side. No more rocker panel content here. Check it out though. Really happy with the way things turned out. Moved on to the front firewall. This video is going to focus on custom fab firewall and some of the thinking that's gone into it. Perhaps sharing my thinking will help shape yours. I'm not saying that what I'm doing is right for everybody, but at least it'll give you something to think about as you plan your build. So let's have a look. Well, you see here, both inner and outer rockers are complete. Just got a little remnant of the tunnel still in place. As I say to my friends, the more I cut out, the better it looks. The only reason it's still in is to give the front a little bit more rigidity as I hack off the firewall. Before I show you that, I'll just recap in some photos of the install on the driver's side. As you see, the before and after of the toe board. A lot of rust that was dealt with and really drove the decision to take these toe boards up and above the torque boxes. Let me take you around to the other side and show you where we're at. Let's talk about some of the different options for a front firewall. If you have a numbers matching rare collectible first gen, clearly you're not going to be messing around with this type of modification. You're going to try and restore it back to what came from the factory. Second option is to clean it up. If you have a few holes that you're not utilizing, you weld up those holes, fill, smooth paint, and you're good to go. Option 3. Now we're starting to get into some modifications. Perhaps you're deciding to eliminate the heater core area and the fan motor. You're going with something like a vintage air system, and those holes aren't required. You may also be going with a hidden windshield washer motor, and the opening on the firewall also isn't required. There are a number of patch panels out there that you can close off those areas with. Those patch panels follow the seam of the upper airbox and really still maintain a stock look. And those patches avoid the steering and brake penetrations on the driver's side, making things a lot easier if you're okay with that. Option 4, you're going beyond the patch panels. You're bringing in a full flush panel. You still avoid the cowls and you avoid the steering column area, and you fill up against that embossed area. Option 5, what I'm doing, it's a full firewall replacement. You're starting with a clean, fresh slate from cowl shoulder to cowl shoulder. Regardless of what option you go with, you really have to decide on how you want to apply those panels. With that said, how do you go about doing it? My biggest concern in doing any of these types of modifications is to not lose my reference points. I don't want anything to move, so that I know with confidence what I'm putting back is in the right location. Because if you make a decision, you weld something in and it's off, the next thing you attach to it is going to be off, and you're just multiplying your problem. So how am I going about that? Well, I utilize my frame jig. I tack welded supports, pinned the cowl on each side, spanned a top support. That support has a dual purpose. One, it's level, it's flush with the face of the top of the valance. Because I'm going to be eliminating that vertical sheet, I'm going to be opening up the cowl. I'll eventually take the cowl off, or the top piece of the cowl, so I can prep the underside or the inside of the airbox, address that layered cake along the windshield. So I will be opening that up, but by pinning this area in multiple locations to my horizontal support, I'll use Clecos at the back so I can remove this piece completely. I'll leave these tacks intact so that I do not lose that reference. Okay, it'll make sense as we go through it. Even this area here that I cut out, I cut it flush with that torque box support, but before I cut it free, I tacked a brace, or not tacked, I used sheet metal screws to attach that. Even my brace is leveled out so that I can hang that down in front of my new firewall sheet and reference any dimension I want. I started to measure, but that's all well and good. I saw this as being an easy way to not lose the ability to understand what was there previously. So I'm just trying to be, work a little smarter. It's a little more involved, but I'm cautious that way. I don't want to F things up, and I don't want to create problems for myself. Some decisions you make lead to others. So driving principle, what I'm doing here, I do not want to create a layer cake. I just don't want to take these areas and lay another sheet of metal over top of them, turn a blind eye to what's behind those multiple layers, and just layer on another one and paint over it. That layer cake is like lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. Anyways, here you have 3 different layers of metal, rust embedded in behind them. Why would I put yet another layer of metal on top of it to hide it? It just doesn't make sense. Not the way my brain works. Okay, to catch you up to where I'm at, I simply drilled out those spot welds, removed the outer layer. I kept this piece of the tunnel intact because with the toe board unassembled or ripped out in the back, I didn't want this tunnel to shift and move, so I need this to stay in place until I can put the toe board patch in and complete the integrity of the lower firewall to ensure nothing moves there. So this is staying for now. I've removed as much of the tunnel that I am going to at this point in time. Even my new piece is going to come down over and below that. So even though I'm going to go with a drive-by-wire throttle body, meaning I don't need the stock accelerator pedal and the mount through the firewall, that's that hole for the linkage here and the 2 bolts that hold the accelerator pedal assembly in its stock location, that will be coming out because that is proud of the overall flush firewall, as you can see here, and it will be in the way. I'm not going around that stuff. I'm eliminating it completely. So you see my white cut lines, to remove that recessed area, and then I'll have to fandangle my firewall and bring those angles to coincide with the slope of the floor and have a nice clean transition, similar to what's here on the passenger side. The cowls have been removed on the front and all of the lower firewall, with the exception of that tied in brace. And whatever I decide to do to transition to the transmission tunnel in the future, I will be putting a T56 Magnum in this, and more than likely we'll have to raise the tunnel, so all this area will need to be reworked. But without a engine to mock up, and I'm not anywhere near putting the front subframe on yet, that sort of integration is for another day. So in the interim, make sure it's solid, keep parts tied in so it's integral. My cowls are pinned to the frame jig, spanned across. All this area is not going anywhere, just the way I like it. Next step, let's open up the cowl. You see here I have my cut line set. Let's talk about it for a sec, the reasoning behind it. So in behind the cowl, there's a heavy metal bracket that supports the connection for the front fender. That bracket is more or less in line with that angled jog, so I'm staying clear of it. I'm going to open it up, leaving about a 1/2 inch flange for the new panel to cleco up against to set it in place. Eventually I'll cut up along tight to that corner radius, and that will be my weld point along that radius, so it's easy to dress the welds and make it invisible. Coming around here, the opening for the windshield washer motor, that part of the cowl is very tight to this concave area of the engine compartment, so I'm going to maintain that for now and maintain this piece of the upper cowl just so everything remains in place and is somewhat secured. So again, temporary. Continue that cutout to this side. Again, there's a heavy metal brace more or less even to here. Come off of it and open that up. Let's open it up, come back. Upper air box off the car. I can fix that windshield flange now that it's not a layer cake. I cut off some of the the pieces that were really bad, but that whole windshield strip will need to be replaced. Lovely rusted brackets in behind what's sound metal, so I get to clean all that up. And then when I weld to that face, I can dress the welds on both sides before I even install the upper part. Makes good sense. Here's the underside of the dash, the infamous before picture. Haven't cleaned off any of the rust. You have to rebuild that corner a bit. See what it looks like once this is all cleaned up. And this corner will need to be rebuilt. Other than that, I think it's pretty good. But time will tell. I'm calling it. Firewall teardown complete. Nothing left to cut out. Stop the madness. Now it's time to make it look pretty. Stay tuned for Custom Fab Firewall Part 2 video showcasing the fabrication and installation coming soon. Cheers.